Hello Blu-ray collectors. Last week we got some very interesting news that was pretty big in terms of the boutique Blu-ray world, and it had a bit of a mixed response, as do many of these big stories when they come out. I'm talking about the news that Eureka Entertainment, the wonderful label from here in the UK, are set to enter into the North American market this year in collaboration with MVD, who are one of the biggest distribution companies in the US. And let me tell you, if you haven't heard of Eureka Entertainment but you are in the US and you like world cinema, classic cinema, etc., this is great news for you. I have a long history with Eureka Entertainment, and they are the reason why I am doing this and sat in front of this camera. They are the reason that I got into collecting boutique Blu-rays. I had no idea what this kind of Blu-ray was, and I saw them on the shelf one day back in 2014. I saw the clear cases, some films that I'd never heard of that really intrigued me, and I was hooked from there. They famously made their name amongst Blu-ray collectors with their Masters of Cinema line, which had a real focus on classic world cinema, also a lot of silent cinema, films like City Girl, you've got Woman in the Moon, and of course Sunrise, which was spy number 1 in the Masters of Cinema collection. And even as recently as last year, we got Pandora's Box on this fantastic special edition. As well as that, we've got Italian genre films like spaghetti westerns and poliziotteschi movies, and we have an absolute boatload of martial arts movies, Hong Kong cinema, a lot of Japanese cinema. I have been introduced to so many wonderful films through Eureka's Blu-rays, so I will be eternally thankful to Eureka as a company for, introducing me to these films. However, as I said, the response to this news hasn't been completely positive, and that is mainly from, I'd say, a portion of the UK collectors. Because for US collectors, this is great news. I know a lot of American people in my audience collect these Blu-rays, but they have to import them from this country, and importing adds so many extra costs. So in the future, you'll be able to save money because you will be able to get these discs locally. But this is seemingly terrible news for some UK collectors if you are to go off some of the Facebook and Instagram comments on Eureka's posts. Eureka have become a bit of a target from their historic fan base because they have pivoted towards a different strategy of the films that they release. I mean, that is undeniable. A lot of their releases nowadays tend to be Hong Kong martial arts films or Japanese films, and you don't see as many releases that you would have seen in the early days of the Masters of Cinema line. So this seemingly has a vocal minority feeling very left behind. I've talked about this before, but this move makes complete sense. They're doing this because this is a good business move, and these are films that are actually very popular, that people want to be buying. They wouldn't be doing this if it didn't make money and people didn't want these films. And you have to face the facts that the industry has become a lot more crowded over the past decade. In the early days of Masters of Cinema, there weren't as many competitive labels vying for these different film rights. You didn't have Indicator, you didn't have Radiance. Arrow were very much sticking to their cult stuff at the time, so they weren't encroaching on stuff that Eureka would have released. So the market has changed, and the changes in Eureka's release strategy reflects that, and it makes total sense. Because surely if it was feasible to be releasing more of what they used to do, then they would be doing that. Why wouldn't they? So anyway, that's just to introduce some of the sort of negative conversations that go on around Eureka and their monthly announcements. The other concern from this type of fan is that Eureka entering the US market might mean that they start to shrink their UK operations. Because let's make no mistake, the US market is much bigger than the UK market. There are so many more opportunities being a Blu-ray company in the US market than there are here in the UK. And I think people are looking at Arrow Video as an example. Arrow started off as a UK company. They then moved into the US to do releases a few years ago. And at the start, the releases were the same in both regions. And then they started to diverge. And we're at the point now where the US releases are completely different to what we get in the UK. And a lot of fans look at the US releases as being more interesting. And we want that kind of stuff if only we could get it in the UK. And you know what? I have to agree with people that have that sort of viewpoint. We are still getting interesting stuff in the UK, but I do look at the US market and go, you know, I wish we were getting The Warriors on 4K or Witness or Barbarella. But obviously, because of the different licensing rights in different regions, we can't get those here. So that is just a worry of some people. To be honest, I don't hold that worry at all. And even if things were to move that way, you know, if the companies need to do this to survive, then I am all for it. And even if something is released in the US and not over here in the UK, at least I have the option of importing it, even though it could be a bit more expensive. I should also mention that Eureka announced the first 2 titles that are going to be released in the US as well as the UK. We're getting Paul Lenny's film The Cat and the Canary, which is one that has been requested for many, many years and is finally coming to Blu-ray, as well as the Jet Li film Black Mask, which is another fan favourite, one that I've not seen, but I'm very intrigued about watching in the future. So personally, I think this is great news because if it helps Eureka grow, if it brings them more business, it could give them more opportunities to explore other works of cinema that might not have been financially viable previously. But do let me know what you think in a comment below. Do you think this is good news or is it bad news? Because I think the people that are saying it's bad news are actually just a vocal minority. I don't think that is the popular opinion. They are just happen to be shouting the loudest. If you'd like to stick around and get some Eureka recommendations from me, just click the video on screen right now where I talk about some great movies. Thanks very much for watching and I'll see you soon.